In the annals of history, few mysteries loom as large or echo as hauntingly as the fate of the Ninth Roman Legion. An entire army, thousands strong, vanished into the mists of time, leaving behind only tantalizing clues and the chilling silence of unanswered questions. Imagine, if you can, the raw, brutal power of the Roman Empire at its zenith. An empire that stretched from the scorching sands of North Africa to the windswept shores of Britannia. Its might was not merely in its vast territorial reach, nor in the opulent palaces of its emperors, but in the disciplined, ruthless efficiency of its legions. These were the elite fighting forces, the very backbone of Roman dominion, a symbol of unparalleled military engineering and human endurance. For centuries, the legions carved out an empire, building roads, fortresses, and cities in their wake, leaving an indelible mark on the landscape of Europe, Africa, and Asia. But among these titans of conquest, one stands out, not for its victories, but for its profound and unsettling disappearance. This is the story of Legio IX Hispana, the Ninth Hispanic Legion, a name once synonymous with courage and triumph, now forever whispered in the shadow of an enigma. How does an entire legion, an organized force of over 5,000 heavily armed, highly trained soldiers, simply vanish? No desperate plea for aid, no triumphant return, no detailed account of its destruction. Just a sudden, inexplicable silence in the historical record, a void that has baffled historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts for nearly 2 millennia. Was it wiped out in a bloody, forgotten battle in the wilds of northern Britain? Was it quietly transferred to another, equally deadly front, only to be absorbed and forgotten? Or did it meet a more ignominious end, lost to internal strife or gradual attrition? Tonight, we delve into one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world, meticulously examining the evidence, sifting through the theories, and attempting to bring to light the ultimate fate of the vanished Ninth Roman Legion. Chapter 1. Forged in fire, the Ninth's early history. To understand the disappearance of the Ninth, we must first understand its origins, its character, and the very essence of what it meant to be a Roman legionary. The Roman army was not just a collection of soldiers. It was a meticulously organized, self-sufficient war machine, a society unto itself, capable of building and defending an empire. The crucible of the Republic, the Ninth Legion, was not born of imperial decree, but forged in the tumultuous crucible of the late Roman Republic. Its origins can be traced back to the armies raised by the legendary Gaius Julius Caesar. These were the men who fought in the brutal Gallic Wars, an 8-year campaign that saw Caesar conquer vast swathes of what is now France and Belgium. It was here, in the mud and blood of Gaul, that the Ninth, then likely designated as one of Caesar's primary legions, earned its initial reputation for ferocity and unwavering loyalty. Think of the conditions: forced marches, sieges, desperate pitched battles against tribal warriors whose ferocity was matched only by their numbers. Legionaries were citizen soldiers, tough, disciplined, and utterly reliant on their comrades. They carried their own tools, built their own camps, and fought with an almost mechanical precision that overwhelmed less organized foes. The Ninth's baptism by fire continued through the brutal Roman civil wars, as Caesar turned his legions against his rival Pompey the Great. The Ninth fought at key engagements like the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC, where Caesar's numerically inferior forces decisively defeated Pompey's army, cementing Caesar's rise to absolute power. This legion was a veteran unit, seasoned by the most intense conflicts of its time. Under the emperors, from Augustus to Hispania, with the end of the Republic and the dawn of the Roman Empire under Augustus, the legions were reorganized and professionalized. The Ninth, having proven its worth time and again, continued to serve with distinction. It was during this period that it earned its cognomen, Hispana, meaning Spanish. This suggests a prolonged and significant period of service in Hispania, modern-day Spain and Portugal, where Rome faced enduring resistance from native tribes, particularly in the Cantabrian Wars. These campaigns, fought in rugged, mountainous terrain, demanded immense resilience and adaptability. The Ninth would have been instrumental in suppressing these uprisings and consolidating Roman control over the Iberian Peninsula, further cementing its reputation as a reliable and formidable fighting force. The life of a legionary. More than just a soldier. To truly appreciate the nature of the Ninth, we must understand the men who comprised it. A Roman legionary was a highly specialized professional. Recruited typically for 25-year terms, their lives were defined by rigorous training, strict discipline, and an unwavering commitment to the legion. Their training was relentless. Physical conditioning, long marches, digging ditches, building fortifications, all under heavy loads. Endurance was paramount. The weapons drills, mastery of the gladius, short sword, pilum, javelin, and scutum, shield. Combat was brutal and personal. Information discipline, the ability to move and fight as a single, cohesive unit, adapting formations on the battlefield to devastating effect, such as the famous testudo or tortoise formation for siege warfare. Their equipment was functional and effective. The heavy, segmented larica segmentata armor or chainmail, larica hamata, a large, rectangular scutum providing almost full body cover. The versatile gladius for close quarters fighting. Two pila to be hurled just before impact, designed to pierce shields and bend on impact, rendering them unusable for the enemy. A helmet, galea, offering protection while allowing visibility. Life in a legionary fortress was structured and demanding. Soldiers lived in barracks, trained daily, and participated in constant construction and maintenance. They were engineers, builders, and administrators as much as they were warriors. They built the roads that connected the empire, the aqueducts that supplied cities, and the walls that defended the frontiers. Every man was a cog in a vast, efficient machine. The Ninth Legion, by the turn of the 1st century AD, was a veteran legion, its ranks filled with men who had seen battle across the empire. They carried the aquila, the legionary eagle standard, with immense pride, a sacred symbol of their unit's honor and spirit. Losing it in battle was the ultimate disgrace, a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions. This was the formidable force that, in 43 AD, set sail for the mysterious and untamed island of Britannia. Chapter 2. The invasion of Britannia, a new frontier. The decision to invade Britannia was a bold move, orchestrated by the Emperor Claudius. After decades of occasional raids and diplomatic overtures, Rome finally decided to add this resource-rich island to its vast dominion. The motives were clear. The prestige of conquering a distant land, the vast mineral wealth, tin, lead, gold, and the strategic advantage of eliminating a potential haven for Gallic rebels. The landings and early conquest in 43 AD, a massive invasion force, led by Aulus Plautius, landed on the shores of Britannia. 4 legions were deployed: the 2nd Augustan, the 14th Gemina, the 20th Valeria Victrix, and, of course, the 9th Hispana. Each legion brought with it auxiliary units, cavalry, and support personnel, swelling the total invasion force to tens of thousands. The initial landings were met with resistance from various British tribes, but the Romans' superior organization, discipline, and siegecraft quickly overwhelmed the native defenses. The British tribes, though fierce and courageous, were disunited and lacked the military technology and logistical capabilities of the Roman army. The 9th Legion played a crucial role in these early campaigns. Their task would have been to push northwards, securing territories, establishing forts, and building the infrastructure necessary to maintain Roman control. They would have encountered the dense forests, boggy terrain, and unpredictable weather that characterized much of Britain, a stark contrast to the drier, more open landscapes of Gaul or Spain. The wilds of the north. As the Roman conquest progressed, the legions established their long-term bases. The 2nd Augustan went to the southwest, the 14th and 20th to the Midlands. The 9th Legion was eventually stationed at Eboracum, modern-day York, in northern England. This strategically vital position allowed them to control the fertile lands of the Vale of York and project Roman power further north into the territories of the Brigantes, a powerful and loosely organized confederation of tribes. Life on the frontier was never easy. While the southern parts of Britain gradually became Romanized, with towns, villas, and a veneer of Roman culture, the north remained a wild and dangerous place. The legions were not merely garrisons. They were constant agents of Roman expansion and pacification. They built roads, bridges, and a network of forts that slowly but inexorably pushed the frontier further. For the men of the 9th, Eboracum would become their home for decades. A massive fortress, complete with towering walls, barracks, workshops, and administrative buildings. It was a miniature city designed to house and supply the legion. From here, patrols would venture out, engineers would oversee construction, and soldiers would train, always aware of the lurking threat from beyond the Roman lines. But this wild new frontier was about to test the 9th in a way it had never experienced before, leaving a scar that would forever mark its history. Chapter 3, Blood and Rebellion, the Boudiccan Revolt, the Roman conquest of Britain, though swift in its initial phase, was far from complete. Underneath the veneer of Roman order, resentment festered among the conquered tribes. Roman administration was often harsh, characterized by heavy taxation, confiscation of land, and disregard for local customs and religious practices. This simmering discontent would explode in one of the most brutal and shocking rebellions in Roman history, the Boudiccan Revolt of 60-61 AD. The Iceni and Boudicca's fury, the catalyst for the revolt, was the Roman treatment of the Iceni tribe, located in what is now East Anglia. Upon the death of their king, Persutigus, who had attempted to maintain a client-kingdom relationship with Rome, the Romans disregarded his will. They annexed his kingdom, flogged his wife, Boudicca, and raped his daughters. This horrific act ignited a flame of vengeance that swept through eastern Britain. Boudicca, a queen of towering stature and fierce resolve, rallied not only her own Iceni, but also the Trinovants and other disgruntled tribes. Their fury was incandescent, fueled by years of Roman oppression. Their first target was Camulogenum, modern-day Colchester, the former capital of the Trinovants and now a Roman colonia, a settlement for retired Roman soldiers. It was lightly defended, a symbol of Roman arrogance. The 9th's disaster at Camulogenum at this time, much of the Roman military, including the provincial governor Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, was campaigning far away in Mona Anglesey, extinguishing the heart of Druid resistance. This left eastern Britain vulnerable. When news of the revolt reached Petilius Cerealis, the legate commander of the 9th Legion at Eboracum, he reacted swiftly, perhaps too swiftly. Without waiting for reinforcements or detailed intelligence, Cerealis marched south with a significant part of his legion, likely the infantry component, to relieve Camulogenum. What followed was a catastrophic ambush. The precise location is debated, but it is clear that Cerealis marched his men directly into a trap laid by Boudicca's overwhelming forces. The disciplined Roman ranks, accustomed to pitched battles on open ground, were likely caught in a confined space, perhaps a narrow defile or a heavily wooded area, where their formations could not be maintained. The tribal warriors, fueled by rage and vastly outnumbering the Romans, swarmed the legionaries. The ensuing slaughter was horrific. The 9th, an elite unit with a glorious history, was utterly decimated. The Roman historian Tacitus, in his Annals, chillingly recounts, "The 9th Legion, when it sallied out to check the enemy's progress, was routed and its infantry cut to pieces. Only Cerealis himself, with the cavalry, managed to escape the carnage and retreat back to the relative safety of his fortress." The rest of the infantry, thousands of men, were annihilated. It was one of the most devastating defeats suffered by a Roman legion in the empire's history, a stark reminder of the ferocity of the Britons and the perils of underestimating a determined foe. Camulodunum fell, its Roman inhabitants massacred and the city razed. The same fate befell Londinium, London, and Verulamium, St. Albans, with Boudicca's forces inflicting immense destruction and slaughter. The rebellion was only ultimately crushed by Governor Paulinus, who returned from Mona and decisively defeated Boudicca in a final, climactic battle, bringing the province back under Roman control. The shame and rebuilding the Boudiccan revolt left a deep scar on the Roman psyche in Britain, and particularly on the 9th Legion. While the legion was eventually reinforced with new recruits from Germania and other parts of the empire, the shame of its near annihilation lingered. The Aquila, the sacred eagle standard, might have been lost, though historical accounts don't explicitly confirm this. If it was, it would have been a profound dishonor, something to be erased from memory if possible. The event demonstrated the vulnerability of even the most powerful Roman units when caught unawares and facing overwhelming numbers and fury. The 9th had survived, but it was a wounded beast, its pride and perhaps its confidence shaken. It had to rebuild its ranks, its training, and its reputation in the harsh environment of Roman Britain. The experience would forever shape its cautious approach and understanding of the dangers that lay hidden in the wild northern reaches of the island. Chapter 4. Pushing north, the Agricolan campaigns following the devastation of the Boudiccan revolt, Rome solidified its grip on Britain. New governors arrived, tasked not only with maintaining order but with pushing the boundaries of the empire further north. One of the most significant figures in this renewed expansion was Gnaeus Julius Agricola, father-in-law of the historian Tacitus. Agricola's governorship from 77 to 84 AD saw a relentless drive into Caledonian, Scottish territory, and the 9th Legion was at the forefront of this advance. Agricola's ambition and strategy. Agricola was an ambitious and highly capable military commander. Unlike some of his predecessors, he understood that pacifying Britain required a combination of military might and effective administration. He built roads, established new forts, and encouraged the Romanization of the conquered tribes, even as he systematically extended Roman control. His goal was to conquer the entire island, to reach its furthest northern shores. The 9th Legion, now fully replenished and ostensibly recovered from its near destruction, was an integral part of Agricola's forces. Its long-standing presence at Eboracum made it the primary spearhead for any push into the northern territories occupied by the Brigantes and further, the formidable Caledonian tribes. These were fierce, independent warriors who fiercely defended their homeland, utilizing the rugged terrain to their advantage. The terrifying night assault in Caledonia. Tacitus, in his biography of Agricola, provides a vivid account of a particularly harrowing incident involving the 9th Legion during these northern campaigns. In the year 83 AD, Agricola had established a series of forts deep within Caledonia. The tribes, infuriated by this intrusion, launched a daring and desperate counterattack. They identified one of these Roman forts, strategically located and seemingly well defended, and launched a coordinated night assault. Tacitus writes, "The enemy, having gained intelligence from deserters of the quarter to which the 9th Legion was gone, being the weakest, attacked them in the night." This detail is crucial. It suggests that the 9th, despite its reinforcements, was still perceived as the weakest, perhaps a lingering reputation from the Boudiccan revolt, or simply the most recent recipient of raw recruits. This perceived vulnerability made it a prime target. The attack was sudden and brutal. The Caledonians, navigating the darkness with skill, managed to surprise the sentries and penetrate the outer defenses. The sound of battle must have been terrifying. The clash of steel, the war cries of the Caledonians, the screams of the wounded, all echoing in the blackness of a northern night. The legionaries, roused from their sleep, fought desperately to repel the attackers within their own camp. It was a chaotic, hand-to-hand struggle for survival. Tacitus describes the Romans as being struck with consternation. And if not for Agricola's swift action, the ninth might have suffered another catastrophic defeat. Agricola's swift response. Agricola, alerted to the crisis, immediately dispatched his fastest cavalry and light infantry to relieve the besieged fort. He ordered his men to cheer loudly as they approached, and the sound of their advance, even before they engaged the enemy, brought renewed hope to the beleaguered ninth and sowed panic among the attackers. The Caledonians, caught between the defending legionaries within the fort and Agricola's approaching relief force, were forced to retreat into the forests, taking heavy casualties. The ninth had been saved from annihilation, but only just. Tacitus concludes this account by noting that the spirits of the Romans were raised by this victory to such a pitch that they wished to advance at once into the enemy's territory. And even the soldiers, secure of their courage, called out that nothing could stop their career. While this passage speaks of renewed confidence, the underlying message is clear. The ninth had once again come perilously close to destruction. It highlights the continued threat posed by the native tribes in the north and the constant vigilance required of the legions. The end of Agricola's campaigns. Agricola continued his campaigns, culminating in the decisive victory at the Battle of Mons Graupius in 84 AD, where he defeated a large Caledonian army. The ninth would have been part of this force. However, despite this victory, Rome never fully conquered Caledonia. Emperor Domitian, fearing Agricola's growing popularity and needing legions for wars on the Rhine and Danube frontiers, recalled him. This marked the end of the grand strategy to conquer all of Britain. The legions withdrew from the furthest northern outposts, establishing a more manageable frontier. The Ninth Legion, having faced the raw ferocity of Britain's tribes for decades, would return to its base at Eboracum, seemingly settling into a more routine, albeit still challenging, frontier life. But its time in Britain was drawing to a quiet and ultimately a mysterious close. Chapter 5. The Eboracum Enigma, the last datable trace for decades after Agricola's departure. The Ninth Legion continued its watch from Eboracum, modern-day York. This fortress, strategically placed at the confluence of the rivers Ouse and Foss, was not just a military camp but a thriving hub of Roman administration and commerce. For the men of the Ninth, it was home, a bastion of Roman order in the midst of a wild and unpredictable province. Life in a frontier fortress, a legionary fortress like Eboracum, was an impressive feat of Roman engineering. It covered a vast area, typically 50 acres or more, enclosed by formidable defensive walls of earth and timber, later replaced by stone. Inside, a grid of streets housed barracks for thousands of soldiers, a large headquarters building, Principia, the legate's residence, Praetorium, a hospital, valetudinarium, workshops, granaries, and even baths and temples. Life for the soldiers, while disciplined, also offered periods of relative peace. When not on campaign or patrol, they engaged in training, maintenance of the fortress, and construction projects. Veterans often settled in the civilian vicus settlement that grew up outside the fortress walls, creating families and contributing to the local economy. The Ninth Legion played a crucial role in maintaining Roman authority in northern Britain. They policed the roads, collected taxes, acted as a judicial authority, and suppressed local unrest. They were the visible embodiment of Roman power, a constant reminder to the native Britons that they were part of a vast empire. The inscription of 108 AD, a fleeting glimpse for historians, the most tantalizing and frustrating piece of evidence regarding the Ninth Legion in Britain, comes from an inscription discovered at Eboracum itself. This stone, a dedication to the rebuilding of the fortress gateway, clearly states, IMP cos nervi triano August gr dac pm trp cos vpp portum pr leg 9 hisp facit. Translated, it reads, 4 Emperor Caesar Nerva Trajan Augustus Germanicus Dacicus, Pontifex Maximus, in his 5th tribunician power, 5th consulship, father of his country, the 9th Hispanic Legion built this gate. The crucial detail here is the imperial title. Trajan held his 5th consulship in 108 AD. This inscription, therefore, provides us with the last undisputed, datable evidence of the 9th Legion's presence in Britain. In 108 AD, the 9th Hispana was alive and well, performing its duties, rebuilding its fortress, a seemingly unremarkable act in the long history of Roman military construction. The silence that follows, but after this date, the trail goes cold. The 9th Legion simply vanishes from the Roman historical record in Britain. No further inscriptions, no official reports mention its continued presence. Other legions, like the 6th Victrix and the 20th Valeria Victrix, are clearly attested in Britain for centuries to come. The 9th, however, is gone. This sudden silence is the crux of the mystery. It's not just a lack of new information, but an almost complete absence in the context of other legions being well documented. What happened in the period immediately following 108 AD that would lead to such an abrupt disappearance? The stage is now set for the various theories that attempt to fill this profound historical void. The Roman Empire was dynamic, and legions were frequently moved to deal with new threats or consolidate gains. But for an entire legion, a permanent fixture in one of the empire's most challenging provinces, to simply cease to be mentioned is highly unusual. The stage is set for the various theories that attempt to fill this profound historical void. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the shadows of Rome's lost legion. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's greatest mysteries, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to explore more fascinating stories from the ancient world. Until next time, keep seeking the truth buried in the past.